Did you know that the attack on Pearl Harbor lasted only about 90 minutes but resulted in the destruction of 8 American battleships, nearly 200 aircraft, and the loss of over 2,400 American lives? That's right. In this quick video, prepare to discover why Japan surprised the United States at Pearl Harbor. Uncover the political twists, diplomacy, and internal struggles behind Japan's decision to launch a major attack on the U.S. Navy. This video is for those curious about the significant move that pulled the U.S. into World War II. Join us as we break down the reasons, explore the thinking behind it, and understand the historical impact of the Pearl Harbor attack. A momentous event unfolded with the unexpected attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Japan's Navy attacked the United States Navy base in Hawaii, and it made the U.S. join World War II. People have wondered for a long time why Japan decided to do such a surprising attack. To know why Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, we need to look at what was happening in Japan in the early 1900s. At that time, Japan had financial problems and needed more resources. They aimed to become a significant power in Asia, so they occupied nearby areas. This worried and upset other countries, including the U.S. Problems began between Japan and the U.S. before the attack on Pearl Harbor, and this continued for around 10 years. Japan, which used to be mostly on its own without much connection to other countries, began wanting more land around the early 1900s. They succeeded in 2 wars, one against China in 1894–95 and another against Russia in 1904–05. Additionally, they performed well in World War I from 1914 to 1918, fighting alongside the Allies. In the 1930s, amid the Great Depression, Japan encountered economic and population challenges. To address these issues, they opted to expand into regions of China. The process commenced in 1931 with the invasion of Manchuria. Japan had been rapidly industrializing and militarizing since the late 19th century. By the 1930s, it aimed to secure essential resources like oil, rubber, and iron ore for its Asian expansionist goals. The takeover of Manchuria in 1931 and subsequent events in China caused tensions to escalate with Western powers, particularly the United States. One primary factor driving Japan toward Pearl Harbor was the geopolitical and economic pressure it faced. The Japanese Empire was in a difficult position as its territorial conquests strained relations with Western powers, particularly the United States. In reaction to Japan's aggressive actions in China, the United States imposed economic sanctions, including an embargo on vital resources like oil and scrap metal. This embargo created a severe situation for Japan, whose military heavily relied on imported resources. With a shortage of critical materials, Japanese leaders needed to secure new sources. In an unexpected move, tensions escalated in July 1941 when President Franklin D. Roosevelt decided to halt oil trading with Japan, which created a significant issue for Japan since 90% of their needed oil came from other countries. It was like a disaster because not having enough oil would ruin Japan's economy and their military would stop moving, so there would be no more expansion. Japan got mad at the U.S. for interfering with their plan to take control of Asia. The only idea left for Japan was to go all out in a big war, crush the U.S. fleet in the Pacific, and then take over Southeast Asia to grab its resources. It was a shocking decision with significant consequences. So let's delve deeply into the reasons behind Japan's decision to attack and explore the far-reaching consequences of this significant event. It's shocking to think that in 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, causing a devastating attack on America. What's even more surprising is that not too long before that, Japan and the United States were friends during World War I. On December 7, 1941, Japan carried out an airstrike on Pearl Harbor, prompting the question, why did Japan make this decision? Japan's urgent need for essential resources, such as minerals, steel, and oil, to support its escalating aspirations in Asia and the Pacific, played a role in its decision to launch an attack. As Japan tried to achieve its goals, the United States, wanting the same resources, placed restrictions and froze Japanese assets in response to Japan's aggressive actions, which made it more challenging for Japan to get the essential supplies it needed. In 1939, President Roosevelt unexpectedly moved the U.S. Pacific Fleet from California to Pearl Harbor. Japan, seeking more territory in the Pacific, became concerned. The people in charge thought a war between the U.S. and Japan would happen, and they believed the best solution was for the U.S. to attack first. So Japan decided to do just that. The motivations behind Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor were multifaceted. Seeking to expand and secure resources in Southeast Asia, Japan faced opposition from the U.S. due to its actions in China, leading to increased restrictions and tensions. Perceiving the U.S. Pacific Fleet as a threat to their plans, Japan aimed to quickly and decisively weaken the U.S. presence in the Pacific through a surprise attack. On a bright Sunday morning, December 7, 1941, Japan deployed planes from 6 aircraft carriers to carry out a strike on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. They aimed to harm the U.S. fleet stationed at the harbor. The attack happened suddenly and without any warning. Japanese planes targeted battleships, cruisers, and destroyers, aiming to weaken the U.S. naval presence in the Pacific. The attack was quick and devastating, leading to the sinking of several ships and leaving the harbor in chaos. Overall, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor messed up almost 20 American ships and over 300 airplanes. They also wrecked where vessels got fixed, dry docks, and planes took off, airfields. The saddest part is that more than 2,000 people lost their lives. The attack caused 2,403 Americans to die, including sailors, soldiers, and regular people. Also, 1,178 got hurt. On the other side, 129 Japanese soldiers lost their lives. On the day following the Pearl Harbor attack, which occurred on December 8th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt spoke before both the Senate and the House of Representatives. He stated, December 7, 1941, a date that will live in infamy. The attack was a critical moment in history, signifying the start of the United States' direct participation in the war. The surprise attack had profound and far-reaching consequences, shaping global events during that critical period. The declaration of war on Japan by the United States on December 8, 1941 was a pivotal moment, signifying the nation's entry into the active phase of World War II in response to the attack on Pearl Harbor. In response to the attack, the United States shifted its stance from isolationism to readiness for an all-out war. This decision had far-reaching implications for the broader conflict, as the U.S. mobilized its resources and military capabilities to confront the challenges posed by Japan and its allies. The shift to total war meant a comprehensive and sustained effort involving not only the military but also the entire nation's industrial, economic, and social resources. The United States, alongside allies such as Britain, France, and Russia, emerged victorious in the war, ultimately defeating Japan, Germany, and Italy. The attack on Pearl Harbor didn't do what Japan wanted. The Japanese bombers missed essential things like oil tanks and repair places. Also, no U.S. aircraft carrier was there during the attack. In June 1942, because of this mistake, the United States won a big battle at Midway, changing the direction of the war in the Pacific. The attack on Pearl Harbor had a notable effect on World War II. It made the U.S. more involved, and Japan had to face stronger enemies. The unintended result of Japan's attack was that it brought Americans together. People became determined to defend their country, and the United States became a significant player in the big war happening around the world. Everything that followed the declaration of war shaped how the country dealt with challenges. Even today, this event teaches us the importance of watching out for surprises and working together to keep peace. The unexpected attack on Pearl Harbor surprised the United States, leading it to participate in World War II. Japan attacked Hawaii to weaken the U.S. Navy, but the plan didn't work perfectly. The U.S. fought back and won important battles. The attack united Americans, and the U.S. became vital to the war. The unintended consequences were significant. Instead of retreating into isolationism, the United States joined the war effort wholeheartedly. Though not achieving Japan's goals, the attack united Americans. It contributed to the Allied victory, reshaping the course of the war and the post-war era.